The church is both divine and human. The church is both divine and human. Brothers and sisters, welcome to our 18th week of our ordinary time. And today the church invites us to reflect on this mystery of the church, which is both divine and human. As we dive deeper into this reality, we can understand how the church, like Christ, carries both the perfectionism of God on one hand and the perfectionism of humanity on the other. This will help us to appreciate our role within the church and how God's grace sustains us, especially in our weaknesses. When we say that the church is divine, we are affirming that it is founded on Christ, and we participate in this divine authority. In today's gospel, on Peter's confession, he says, "You are Christ, the Son of the living God." This is a very profound moment of revelation. This truth is not revealed by Peter's own human wisdom, but by God himself. And Jesus recognizes this insight, and he says, "You are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church." And therefore Christ goes on to grant Peter that divine authority, symbolized by the keys to the kingdom of heaven and the power to bind and to loose. And this authority is which has been passed on to us through the apostolic succession, which ensures that the church continues to be this visible organization, which communicates its truth and grace, just the same way the Lumen Gentium says that the church is a visible organization and it's also a spiritual community. Above all, its mission remains, it is there to save souls. As we sit here today, we are part and parcel of this church, and we are invited to participate in this divine mission. And this brings us to the human nature of the church. The church reflects that we have both strengths and weaknesses. We human beings are imperfect. One of our greatest strengths that we have is that we human beings, we have that capacity to be open to the divine truths. We have that capacity to be open to the divine truths. This knowledge of Jesus is not something that Peter arrived at by his own reasoning or external evidence, but it was God's self-communication to Peter's heart. Just the same way Karl Rahner will say that we ought to remain open to God's truth, allowing His grace to flow into our lives. Allow me to quote one of my lecturers who uses a very beautiful image, that we human beings, we are like a funnel. And entonnoir, my French is quite good. We are like a funnel. We are open to the divine. We are always open to be receptive to the divine truth. But we also carry our own challenges. In today's first reading, we meet Moses with his own challenges. First, he has lost his sister, Miriam, through death, and therefore he's grieving. On the other hand, he's with the Israelites who are demanding, and they are a kind of a rebellious group. So Moses has this kind of frustrations, he has this kind of grief, he has anger, which really took over. He was told by God to go on and speak to the rock, but because of his anger, he went on to strike the rock, and the rock produced the water. But he missed the point, because at that point, he prevented for the full saving power of God to be revealed to the people. As we sit here today also, we also have our own struggles. We have our own emotions, anger, fear, frustrations, which cloud our judgments, which in one way or another affects our mission. My brothers and sisters, there is still hope. There is still hope. When you go back to our gospel, Jesus lovingly corrects Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are not thinking as God, but as human being. Get behind me, Satan." This is a rebuke, not out of rejection, but it's a call to tell Peter to focus on faith and hope, because he's the one going to lead the church. Same to us, my brothers and sisters. When we find ourselves consumed with fear, anger, or doubt, let us be bold enough to say, "Get behind me, Satan. Get behind me, fear. Get behind me, frustration." May these words always remind us that we have God's grace, and it is always available to us. We are stewards of the Lord's work. We are collaborators of the Lord's work. Let us always remember that we are not alone in our weaknesses. Christ is always with us. Let us hold on to that divine strength on our journey of faith, because the church is fully human and fully divine.